Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training. Here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. Repping out the Copley Indians, big baseball game tonight. And we finally have sunshine, so we're happy around here. But this week, we are talking about if we want to build better team culture, start with mental performance tools. Start with mindset. This week, we had the opportunity to sit down and talk to JP Nerbun. He is the author of The Culture System, also of the Sport Parent Playbook. Great guy. And he is also a team culture expert. And he has the TOC Culture Podcast, if you're interested in checking him out. But we got to talk to him on this week's Game Changers Athlete Edition podcast. And like everything that I do, I listened to our conversation or took part in our conversation through a mental performance frame. And it made me really think about how important mental training is when it comes to team culture. So we're going to go through today and list 4 or 5 different ways that our mental performance tools impact our team culture. Because as Elise Gould says, she's from the Salt River Project, she says, culture is not what you post on the walls, it's what happens in the halls. That's almost the exact quote, not exactly. But what happens in the halls starts somewhere else first. We know that everything we do starts with a thought, which turns into how we feel, or affects how we feel, and then that affects our behavior. So if we re-engineer the behaviors in the hall, regardless of what it says on the wall, we will come back to saying, oh my gosh, team culture is directly affected, or it's the opposite side of the coin, or the flip side of the coin of team culture. So if we want to build a great team culture, we need to give our team, whether we're a business team or an athletic team, we need to give our team mental performance tools that can help them contribute to the culture. JP says that culture can be influenced by a lot of people, and it's really not about clearing everything out and laying a foundation. It's more like tending to a garden and picking things out and using different tools in order to build this system of a culture that will withstand losses and mistakes and frustrations and all the things that come, and pressure, all the things that come with a season or a big project or a presentation. Whatever we're doing, culture makes a difference. And we know that culture matters. It's important to all of our teams. Teams with great culture are more successful. So the individuals on your team or in your program have these mental performance tools. And it doesn't just sharpen them, it sharpens everyone around them if they're able to use these tools in a productive way. So let's break it down. First of all, emotional regulation equals psychological safety. Dr. Amy Edmondson talks about psychological safety. Psychological safety is basically being able to screw up or go out of your comfort zone without worrying about someone making fun of you or having a snide remark or, calling you out. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that we don't hold people accountable, and she talks a lot about that, but it makes people feel like they can make a mistake and rebound and come right back to it. It's ownership. And if we can regulate our emotions instead of flying off the handle, I'm working with a college soccer player right now who has a problem not flying off the handle sometimes when her teammates make mistakes. It's really not that she flies off the handle when they make a mistake. It's that she gets emotionally charged on the inside, knows she can't really say anything, and then it affects her play in a negative way. And we're trying to say, okay, these things you don't control, let's move on to the next thing, and what's our next best move. But the bottom line is that deep breathing, physiological sighs, rapid relaxation techniques, self-talk reframing, all of these things can help us manage our emotions. And if we can regulate our emotions, people are going to feel more safe around us. I know this. My grandfather was an alcoholic. I didn't know the guy. He died long before I was born. But his inability to manage his emotions greatly affected my mom and her siblings. And I even felt that as a child, even as an adult, and started to learn more about that as I aged and watched my mom sort of grow through and deal with all the things that come along with having an alcoholic father, but it was that emotional deregulation or inability to regulate emotions that kept the house in upheaval. And the culture was rough. It was rough, and that has long-term generational effect. And just like our team, when we are able to manage our emotions or regulate them, the people around us know what to expect. They don't feel like they're walking on eggshells. Did I do this great? Was I awesome at this as a coach? No. Was I awesome at this as an athlete? Probably a little better than I was as a coach, actually, but it makes a big difference. It's all about power move number 3, because if we're not managing our state, we are greatly influencing the state of our culture. And if we can manage our emotions, we're going to influence that culture in a more positive way. The next thing is that resilience is a relationship builder. And we know that great cultures have great relationships. Coaching is about relationships. Being a good teammate is about relationships. And the question is, what do we do after a mistake? Do we hang our heads? Do we point fingers? Do we, stomp around? I just watched Oregon play somebody yesterday, and I can't remember who it was, Oklahoma. And the pitcher hung a pitch, and man, right down Main Street, and Oklahoma drove it deep left field. And the first thing that pitcher did was she was like, that was on me. Everybody came in. She's like, you could even almost read her lips. That was on me. She took accountability immediately for her mistake. Did she mean to do that? Of course she didn't mean to do that. And other times she might have gotten away with it, but that time she didn't. And she took accountability for it and was able to move on. That was it for that inning. They moved on. And if she would have harbored it or, said something to her teammates or complained about the pitch that was called or whatever it was, that's going to damage relationships. So our ability to deal with our own stuff and help everyone around us do the same can really build resilience because we can count on each other. Vulnerability fuels connection, J.P. Durbin says, and a lot of other people say, Brene Brown says, vulnerability fuels connection and relationships matter. When we have greater relationships, we are more resilient because it's not just us. We have other people. Tools like resets, visualization of recovery, fact-checking our perspective, all of these things help us support our teammates more and allows everyone to perform better. Next, words are tools, and we know this. So self-talk affects our communication culture. How we talk to ourselves ends up being how we talk to others. Just like if you're a parent, the way you talk to your kid is the way they talk to themselves. Oh, that's a lot of pressure. Whew. And sometimes things come out of my mouth. I'm like, oh gosh, just today I said something. I'm like, seriously, Joel, you know better than that. But if we can manage our internal dialogue and we can speak life into ourselves, we are definitely going to be more likely to speak life into others. Words are tools. They predict and perpetuate performance, according to Trevor Moawad, and I agree 100%. If we can talk to ourselves like we would talk to a friend or a trusted colleague, we would talk to others better as well. Because I used to tell our kids sometimes, if you talk to your friends the way that you talk to yourself, you would have no friends. So managing our self-talk, using our words both internally and externally to celebrate growth and effort and resilience is going to affect our culture. And if we can celebrate the things that are going well, those things are going to be repeated because people want to be celebrated. So our self-talk makes a difference. The next mental thing that affects culture is that pressure management allows for a performance culture. Teams with poor pressure management implode or explode when things go wrong. Teams that can manage pressure better flow like water over the rocks, down and around, and there we go. They stay connected, they stay composed, and they can compete through pressure, and that's really important. Individual reps, breathing, being focused, talking about what we want, all of these things allow us to manage pressure better. What's your pre-performance routine? Routines help us manage pressure better. All of these things directly affect our culture, because the way that we manage pressure, whether it's in practice or in a game, directly affects our performance. And then finally, on the podcast, we talked a little bit about complaining, and JP talked about that maybe being one of the biggest problems in a culture, is that we let people vent, but then we don't do anything with it. So the question is, do we spend time complaining or are we contributing? This is the cultural crossroad. When we complain, and we want people to air frustrations, there's no doubt about it, but just letting it out there or continuing it without having okay, how can we do it better? Or directing people toward a solution, that is corrosive to our culture. It's a cue that people are struggling with their emotional regulation. So back to the top one, we want to have psychological safety. There's too much complaining, that safety goes out the window. Because if you're complaining about somebody else, they're in the back of their head sort of worrying about whether you're complaining about them too. We know that in the back of our head that that's something we think about. Unbridled frustration turns into fear. And complaining makes other people uncomfortable in the end. So we have to teach athletes, right, to recognize, to release, and then refocus. Well, maybe we can use this same sort of reset in our talk, the way we communicate. How about a cultural filter? And this is it. If what you're saying doesn't help you reset, reframe, or refocus the team, then it's not helping. I'll say that again. If it doesn't help you reset, reframe, or refocus the team, then it's not helping. That's one way to help turn complaining or airing of frustrations into something that helps us. Okay, we didn't like this. Great. Now what? What are we going to do where we are with what we have right now? What's our next best move? That's the question. So culture is not what's written on a notebook, on a wall, on a t-shirt. It's what's repeated day in and day out. It's how we do things around here. It's what's repeated over and over and over, especially under pressure. And if we can get better at some of these tools, our culture will be better. So if we want a strong culture, we need to strengthen the minds in that culture. We need to give them tools to help regulate. Choose one thought or the other, have the ability to respond, and then manage their state. Our 3 power moves make a good culture better, or a bad culture better, whichever. Doesn't make any difference. But if we can help athletes or the people that we lead work better through stress, work better through mistakes, work better through frustration, not only are they going to perform better, but it makes all of us better. So if we're working to build good culture, we have to start with skill sets. All of these are skills, learned behaviors. We're giving them tools to lead the culture. JP likes to say that culture can be affected from all kinds of areas. Parents, from the inside, or you can culture up, just like we try to manage up in certain organizations. And I'll add that it's an inside out change as well. We have to start with our mindset. If we can manage this from head to toe, we are going to be better contributors to our culture. So check out this week's podcast, Game Changers, Athlete Edition, with Courtney Harmon and Julie Jones. Listen to what JP has to say for yourself. I guarantee you'll pull out something that you can use for your athletes or for those you lead or even for yourself. And don't forget to join us in 2 weeks when we talk to JP about how parents affect culture, because parents affect everything. They are the biggest influence in everyone's life in all reality. So it's going to be a great episode as well. If you'd like to talk about building a program to help your culture, reach out, juliej@ssbperformance.com. And in the meantime, go Indians and have a great day.